Jolene from Smith's Nature Friendly Farms. We are hanging out outside today. We are building up our supplies for the summer, and I thought I would take you along with me on the next round. So I've just gotten a load of dirt, well actually not dirt, organic garden soil, essentially compost, and I'm going back to get some bark mulch. So I thought I would take you guys with me to the little local place that we go to and show you what we're doing. We're headed to Phillips Barks, and Phillips Barks is this great processing place in Brookhaven. We are so lucky to have it. It's actually a little bit outside of Brookhaven. Brookhaven, for those of you that don't know, small town, not huge, doesn't qualify to be a city, I don't think, by any means, and we live outside of it in the country. So we've got a bit of a drive, but maybe 20 minutes to get to Phillips Barks. We are so incredibly lucky to have the access that we do to get it. Otherwise, a lot of people might have to go into Jackson, the city. Nobody likes driving in the city. So it is very nice to have something out here. I know people from Louisiana drive all the way up here in order to get their compost and their materials for their garden. So we are lucky to have Phillips Barks, and they are great people over there. So we're going to head over there now, and we'll show you along the way. Essential materials packed. We've got a bucket, and I'll show you what that's for a little bit later. We have some netting, and we got a tarp. We are here at the Phillips Bark Processing. $45 for bark mulch. We already paid $55 for our garden soil earlier. Now we're going to go let them put it in the truck. Here it comes. And here's our load. We take a stop here and we're going to cover it up a bit, and this is what the bucket's for. I could toss it in the back, but there's enough stuff that'll float out the back. I'm just going to put it in the back of the cab. So I've tucked in the sides as best as I could. I put my netting over top. Remember that in most places it's law that you cover up. You don't want to get a ticket, and I also don't want the tarp to fly off. I borrowed this from our friends at the Great Mississippi Tea Company. All right, on the road. I'm back home. We've got the bark mulch here from Phillips Bark Processing. Super, I was so excited to make it there on time. I got 2 loads of materials today, which means that I have something to do all weekend. And it seems odd, but it's been really quite the challenge to be able to get all this and pull it together. One, the stepson drives the truck. Usually I don't always have the truck, so I have to coordinate that. 2, the weather's been so wet, and I need to take these materials and put them in a place in the yard that the ground is super soggy if it's really wet, so I have to wait for it to be dry for a few days. So it's just like this huge relief to get there, get 2 loads in one day, and so that my entire weekend is like going to be filled with beautifying and readying the garden. I'm so excited. Literally, when I ran up to the guy on the second load that I had to go pay for the bark mulch, I ran up and I was waving like Forrest Gump when he sees the shrimp boat, or when he's on the shrimp boat. You know, when that one where he's like waving at Lieutenant Dan? Yeah, that was me. I looked like an idiot, but oh well. I am who I am. So I'm super excited. We're gonna get this bark mulch unloaded, and I'll show you a few spaces in the garden that I'm gonna add it to. We gotta wait for this storm to finish. We have a storm coming in tomorrow. It's getting quite a bit of buzz, so it'll probably, I don't know, it's hard to say. Sometimes they get a lot of buzz and they turn into nothing, and sometimes there's some very quiet storms and they turn into big deals. So this one's kind of a mix of, well, it's got quite a bit of buzz. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, but I won't put all my bark mulch down because the water will probably wash lots of it away if it's a super big storm. So we'll at least get it all out of the truck and piled away and get the truck off the grass. Well, I'm done. As you can see, I've lost the light, but I finally got all of my compost out. Sorry, bark mulch. I'm exhausted. And the truck bed is empty, so I can put it away for the night. All right, it was so late last night, I wasn't able to even show you guys properly the dirt and the bark mulch that we managed to get emptied. We got the truck moved off the grass back over on the side of the house. So now on to taking some of this stuff over the next couple of days, probably a little bit today, probably not a lot tomorrow because of the weather, but this weekend for sure, to rebuild some of our pathways. I'm going to take you through some of the enhancement that we need to make in the garden this year. Trigger alert, the garden looks messy. There's black plastic all over the place. That's what we use to keep the weeds down during, you know, times of not growing, or actually even sometimes during growing. Sometimes we put the black plastic down to take over weeds that have grown up in specific areas, so it doesn't look amazing, and it certainly doesn't look amazing because it doesn't have all the plants in it. So if you are here to see something absolutely stunning, yeah, you might want to click away. My garden is a work in progress all the time, and quite frankly, that's how I like it. I'm completely and utterly happy in my space, and I hope that for you guys too. If your garden is immaculate and that brings you joy, perfect, I'm happy for you. If your garden is an utter mess and out of control and that makes you happy, perfect, I'm happy for you. So I digress. Let's move on. I wanted to put something in this pathway, lift the plastic that the wind's been tearing apart, and get more bark mulch down. So this will start here. Obviously I need some work on my weeds in here, so I'm going to pull the weeds up as best as I can and then put down some thick bark mulch. Next, I have this nasty grass that's super invasive and really annoying to control because it grows underground, and then each string of the grass grows a new kind of nodule root, I guess, and more grass can grow off of it. So you might pull up this piece, but there's another mile of pieces out there that are just going to produce more grass. So I'm in a big mission to try and get this with cardboard and bark mulch, to be extra aggressive with trying to get it. But I mean, it's hard. It's in every corner. Mississippi has some of the nastiest grasses. So we'll aim to make it like this with a super thick bark mulch, but we'll put cardboard underneath it as well. Then I have rows that I want to lift the plastic and put the mulch down in. The plastic has been great, but ultimately I would like to be better to the soil, and putting the mulch down allows the soil to still function nicely. So, but at the same time suppress the weeds. I mean, ultimately that's my mission. Otherwise, I don't think I could manage all of this space without the bark mulch and or the plastic. Like, the weeds would be too much. Unfortunately, in Mississippi especially, it wasn't this bad in Canada, but it is especially bad. It is very jungle-like for all of their grasses, and it crawls in, it flies in, it grows underneath. It's an incredibly, it's got a great ecosystem. Like, stuff can grow here really, really well. In Canada, don't get me wrong, we had quack grass and it was super annoying, and you had dandelions that flew in, so you definitely had your weeds, but aggressive weeds here are really, really aggressive, and the environment is so warm year-round that it just, nothing seems to kill anything off. So this big ugly mess is actually one of this year's major projects. So if you're building a garden, you might find, like, unless you are naturally good at this stuff, you might build it right the first time. But what I have found, this is now my 4th year, is that I'm spending some time rethinking and redoing areas of the garden that don't work. And I think that is entirely okay, and it's part of the fun, is part of the creative aspect of gardening. Do not look at other people's gardens and think, man, it's so perfect, like, I can't do that. You can, it just takes time, and people that do it perfect maybe have a lot of money to work with initially, or they've got a lot of experience, or maybe they've even got professional advice in their corner. So don't feel bad, just do it, get started, and know and trust in the process. And that's actually, to me, this is what's fun. Creating and developing this garden has been so fun, and it has evolved so many times. Like, this was all grass. All of this with just grass when we moved in here 4 years ago. So it's insane to think of what it's become now and what it will become in the future. It won't look like this in probably 3 or 4 years. It'll have some changes, although some of it I'm starting to feel like, okay, I like it this way, and some things will stick. So give it time. But for me this year, that's my focus, is I'm fixing a couple of major regions. This one region is going to be fixed. It actually had a fence in here. I just took it out. Back over there, we've got a strawberry area that I'll do a separate video on, but I made mistakes with strawberries, so we're going to redo the strawberries. And we cleaned up a corner back there that was just taken over with weeds. And then back there, we're building a high tunnel. So like there's lots always on the go. But that compost and that bark mulch will give me lots of work for the next couple weeks anyways. I'll be through that bark mulch probably in no time and need to go back for more. But it will get me started and start to additionally change the landscape even nicer a bit as we go. Awesome. Well, hopefully you guys found that somewhat moderately interesting. You never know. But as usual, guys, be friendly, be kind.